name is Adriana Velez, and I will be presenting on my company Libre. And the story and mission behind Libre is that I wanted to create a company that was made by the Cuban community for the Cuban community. My parents immigrated to this country way before I was born. And however, growing up in Miami, I did not want to forget about our culture and our customs, and I wanted to keep that throughout the rest of my life. And that's why I came up with Libre, and I wanted to create something that was a unified dream for us, but further unifying our community and going towards a Cuba Libre, which Libre means freedom in Spanish, and it's just a very famous phrase that a lot of people know. And it's mostly just modern representation for this new generation. So the concept is that in Miami, and especially all over the world, there's not a lot of options for Cuban Americans to represent our culture in a modern and fashionable way. If you go to Miami, it's mostly those like tourist locations. It's very tacky, it's very overly colorful, and a lot of us don't want to wear that. So we want to create, or my brand wants to create pieces for modern fashion trends and take traditional pieces and modernize them for this new generation to wear. The brand will consist of 3 different branches. It will have traditional pieces such as button-downs and polos. It will have streetwear, which is a much more modern take on fashion that is very popular nowadays, and haute couture, which will have collaborations with Cuban artists and more avant-garde pieces that might have more political meanings behind it. So first steps of the implementation process is that I went and asked people in New York City and in Los Angeles what their opinion on just Cuban culture was, what they thought of the island when you ask about it. And I'll go further into what I got in results, but a lot of people just said that they were very basic pina coladas, palm trees, pretty, like old 1950s cars, which is what I expected. And before I went to Miami, I was able to make my MVPs, which I have a photo afterwards, of shirts, and I did make a hoodie. Very basic minimalist design at first, because I thought that's what people would want. Just a plain shirt with the silhouette of the island of Cuba on it, as just a very simple way of representation before going way too crazy with the designs. And then I was asking people, I don't know why it's over that. I was asking people in Miami what they thought of the current market regarding Cuban-inspired fashion, and a lot of them agreed with me that it was very tacky, it was not the best, and they wish that there was something that was much more dedicated to modernizing it. So those are the MVPs, the shirts. They come in white and black, and they were on plain, just blank t-shirts from an American-made company. I was making sure that everything was at least made in the USA, and as much as possible, it's like the embroidery was all done in Miami. And this is an example of a guayabera. It's a traditional Cuban garment that most of the time it's something you see an older person in the Cuban community wear, not something you see a younger person wearing, but we want to take that, maybe modernize it, put some cooler patterns on it, embroider it, and make it something much more attractive to the younger demographic. So feedback that I received in New York and LA, the majority of people were not very interested or just had a very stereotypical view on Cuban culture, and they were not interested in wearing the brand unless it became much more popular, like a brand like La Supreme is a very popular streetwear brand, or something like Michael Kors, something like that you see a lot of people wear. In Miami, the majority of the people I interviewed were very interested in the brand. They had a very positive outlook on it, they loved the mission behind it, and even people that I wasn't interviewing, people were stopping me on the street asking me where I had gotten my item and where they could buy it. And I wanted a much more niche opinion at one point, so I went onto reddit.com and asked a streetwear forum that had about 10,000 followers as part of it what they thought of the streetwear brand, and it was 100% negative reviews. They hated the brand because they thought it was way too simple and boring, and it was very understandable because streetwear is much more colorful, it's much more in your face, so it's very understandable why they didn't like it as much. So these are the exact numbers that I received from like P equals like positive, like I would totally buy this brand, I want it, and for negative meaning they would not be interested at all, and neutral meaning they would buy the brand if it became more popular, if they saw a famous social media influencer wearing this item. So pivoting my idea, the first collection, instead of making it a minimalist design, I decided to go with a more streetwear, but incorporating vintage Cuban imagery, like modern guayaberas, and some accessories that a lot of people were asking for. And these collections will be low in volume because it'll keep my costs low at making the first collection, but it will also incentivize our customers to want to buy it because they'll think it's limited edition, and they'll be more interested in buying that piece. And all of this will be sold solely through an online store at first, just because it's much easier and it's better to market through social media. And we'll be going through sponsorships of popular Cuban social media influencers that I've already created like a PR list to contact them, email them, and send them the shirts and ask for their positive or even negative feedback. Just constructive criticism would be great. So then once a year, we'll be planning on opening a pop-up shop in Miami. And once the brand is profitable enough, we'll be able to open a full-time location in Miami and then hopefully expand all over the country. These are examples of the vintage Cuban design we'll be going for in the first collection. Just very iconic pieces that used to be very popular before everything that kind of happened back in like the 50s and 60s. But we'll be hoping to like integrate this into the fashion pieces. And this is an example of the sample website. We will probably be like altering it and making it much more maybe younger. We were first going for a very tropical vibe, but I think we'll be probably pivoting it to be a bit more streetwear and fashionable. Thank you.